Welcome back to Moo YouTube channel, everyone, and a huge thank you for joining me today because you are about to hear one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories in the world of rare coins, a story that has turned an ordinary-looking penny into a treasure valued at up to $9 million. So sit back, stay with me till the end, and imagine for a moment that the small copper-colored 1-cent coin lying forgotten in a jar, drawer, or old wallet could secretly be worth more than luxury mansions, supercars, and lifelong wealth. Because today we are diving deep into the incredible mystery and legend of the 1983 1-cent coin, a year that changed everything for Lincoln pennies and created some of the most valuable minting mistakes and errors ever known, making collectors, investors, and everyday people dream that they might one day discover one of these rare pieces. The 1983 1-cent is special not because it was meant to be rare but because it was produced during a historic transition period at the United States Mint, a time when cost pressures forced dramatic changes in how pennies were made, and whenever massive changes happen in manufacturing, especially at the scale of billions of coins, mistakes are almost guaranteed to occur, and those mistakes are exactly what transformed certain 1983 cents into multi-million-dollar legends, because until 1982, US 1-cent coins were made primarily of copper, weighing about 3.11 grams, but rising copper prices made it too expensive to continue producing pennies with such high copper content, so the mint decided to change the composition to a zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper, resulting in a lighter coin weighing around 2.5 grams, and while this change officially took place in 1982, the reality inside the minting facilities was far more complicated, as old copper planchets, new zinc planchets, dyes from different years, experimental materials, and rushed production schedules all collided in a chaotic environment, and by the time 1983 rolled around, the mint believed that all copper planchets had been used up, meaning that every 1983 1-cent was supposed to be struck on zinc-based blanks, but history has proven that assumption to be dangerously wrong, because somehow, through human error, overlooked inventory, or accidental mixing of planchets, a very small number of copper planchets survived into 1983 production and were struck with 1983 dyes, creating one of the rarest and most valuable pennies in existence, the 1983 copper 1-cent error. These coins look almost identical to normal pennies at first glance, which is what makes them so thrilling and so dangerous, because to the untrained eye they appear ordinary, yet their weight, metal composition, and minting history tell a completely different story, and when authenticated by professional grading services, these coins have shattered records, with top-condition examples reaching valuations that experts believe could exceed $9 million under the right circumstances, especially if a previously unknown example appears in exceptional condition, because rarity alone is powerful, but rarity combined with historical significance, public fascination, and mystery creates a perfect storm for astronomical value. One of the primary reasons the 1983 copper penny is worth so much is that it was never supposed to exist, making it a true wrong planchet error, which is one of the most respected and valuable categories of mint errors, since it represents a complete failure in quality control at a fundamental level, and unlike minor errors such as off-center strikes or double dyes, wrong planchet errors directly contradict official mint records, which for decades insisted that no copper planchets were used in 1983, and when the first confirmed example surfaced, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, forcing experts to reconsider long-held assumptions about mint practices, inventory management, and the possibility that even more undiscovered examples could still be out there, hiding in collections, piggy banks, or old rolls of pennies, waiting for someone curious enough to test their weight. Weight is actually one of the simplest and most important clues when identifying a potential 1983 copper penny, because a genuine copper example will weigh approximately 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams of zinc cents, and this difference is significant enough that even a basic digital scale can reveal whether a coin deserves further investigation, but weight alone is not enough, because altered coins, plated zinc cents, and fraudulent modifications exist, and that is where metallurgical testing, X-ray fluorescence analysis, and professional authentication become critical, since only a certified example backed by reputable grading companies can command multi-million-dollar valuations. Beyond wrong planchet errors, the year 1983 is also famous for other extraordinary mistakes that add layers of intrigue and value to coins from this era, including double dyes, off-metal strikes, die clashes, broad strikes, and transitional errors, all of which contribute to the legend of 1983 as a chaotic and fascinating year in U.S. coinage history, but none come close to the sheer impact of the copper composition error, because it represents a direct collision between old and new systems, a brief moment when the past and future overlapped inside the minting presses, Another critical factor that drives the value of the 1983 copper penny toward the $9 million range is extreme scarcity, as only a handful of confirmed examples are known, and some estimates suggest fewer than 10 authentic pieces exist, possibly even fewer than 5, and when you combine that level of rarity with massive demand from elite collectors, museums, and investors, prices can escalate rapidly, because unlike mass-produced collectibles, ultra-rare coins operate in a market where one additional buyer with deep pockets can completely redefine value, especially if two wealthy collectors compete for the same piece at auction, pushing bids into territory that seems unbelievable to the average person, but makes sense when viewed through the lens of prestige, exclusivity, and historical importance. Condition also plays a massive role, because even among already rare coins, condition separates the extraordinary from the legendary, and an uncirculated or near perfect 1983 copper penny with sharp details, original luster, and minimal handling marks would be considered a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, potentially redefining price ceilings and setting new records, which is why experts often say that the next discovery could be the one that breaks the $9 million mark definitively. The fascination with this coin is amplified by the fact that millions of people unknowingly handled 1983 pennies every day, spending them, saving them, or tossing them aside without any idea that a microscopic fraction of them could be worth a fortune, and this creates a powerful psychological pull, because it means the treasure hunt is accessible to everyone, not locked away behind academic barriers or expensive equipment, but hiding in plain sight, waiting for curiosity, patience, and knowledge to intersect at the right moment. The errors that define the 1983 penny story are not just technical mistakes, but human ones, reflecting rushed decisions, incomplete transitions, and the realities of large-scale manufacturing, where absolute perfection is impossible, and it is precisely these imperfections that collectors cherish, because they tell stories that flawless coins cannot, stories of change, adaptation, and unintended consequences. Beyond composition errors, some 1983 pennies also exhibit dramatic double die obverse, where elements like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's features appear doubled due to misalignment during die creation. And while these are not worth millions on their own, they can still command substantial premiums and add to the mystique of the year, reinforcing the idea that 1983 was a breeding ground for anomalies, a year when the mint's internal systems were under stress and vulnerable to errors at multiple stages of production. Another intriguing possibility that fuels speculation is the idea that additional undiscovered copper planchets might still exist in private hands, because the minting process involved multiple facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver, and inventory records from that era were not always as precise or transparent as modern systems, leaving room for the possibility that small quantities of copper blanks were overlooked, miscounted, or reused, especially during a time of rapid transition and cost-cutting measures, and as long as that possibility exists, the dream remains alive that someone somewhere could stumble upon another authentic example, instantly transforming their life. The valuation of $9 million is not just about metal or age, but about narrative, because this coin represents a turning point in American monetary history, the moment when economic realities forced a fundamental change in something as everyday as the penny, and collectors are not just buying a coin, they are buying a story, a physical artifact that captures a specific moment in time when tradition met necessity, and mistakes were made that could never be repeated, since once the transition was complete and copper planchets fully eliminate. Next 2011 1-cent coin, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in today, because what we are about to explore is one of the most shocking and exciting stories in modern coin history, a story that proves once again that incredible value can hide in the smallest and most ordinary places, and today's journey takes us into the mysterious world of the 2011 1-cent coin, a penny that millions of people handled, spent, and ignored without realizing that certain rare examples could be worth as much as $7 million. So as you settle in, imagine for a moment that a single cent, something most people barely bother to pick up from the ground, could change a life forever, because that is exactly what makes this story so powerful, so unforgettable, and so important for anyone who has ever wondered whether treasure can still exist in modern times. The year 2011 might seem far too recent for a coin to be worth millions, especially in an era of advanced technology, strict quality control, and massive production numbers, but history has repeatedly shown that when systems operate at enormous scales, even small mistakes can slip through, and when those mistakes intersect with unusual circumstances, transitional processes, or overlooked variables, they can create anomalies that collectors spend lifetimes chasing. And the 2011 1 cent is a perfect example of how modern minting can still produce legendary errors. To understand why certain 2011 pennies can reach such extraordinary valuations, we must first appreciate the context in which they were made. because by 2011, the United States Mint was under immense pressure to reduce costs, streamline production, and maintain output levels despite declining use of the penny in everyday transactions, and this pressure created an environment where speed, efficiency, and volume often took priority, increasing the risk of subtle but critical mistakes that would later become priceless. By this time, 1-cent coins were officially made with a zinc core coated in copper, weighing approximately 2.5 grams, a composition that had been standard for decades, yet even within this standardized system, opportunities for error still existed, especially when foreign planchets, experimental materials, die preparation issues, and human oversight all played a role behind the scenes. And it is within this complex and tightly controlled environment that the seeds of the $7 million 2011 penny were planted. 1. Of the most astonishing possibilities associated with the 2011 1 cent is the existence of wrong planchet errors, where coins were accidentally struck on blanks intended for other denominations or even foreign currencies, and while such errors are extremely rare in the modern era, they are not impossible, and when they occur, they represent a catastrophic breakdown in minting protocols, making them some of the most valuable errors known, especially when discovered years later and authenticated by experts. Imagine a 2011 penny struck on a bronze planchet, a copper alloy blank, or even an aluminum or steel-based blank not intended for US cents, instantly transforming an ordinary design into a unique artifact that was never meant to exist, and it is precisely this kind of impossibility that drives valuations into the millions, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a contradiction to official records, a tangible mistake that challenges what was believed to be impossible. Another major factor contributing to the immense value of certain 2011 pennies is the presence of dramatic double die errors, which occur during the die creation process when the design is misaligned and impressed more than once, resulting in noticeable doubling on elements such as the date, lettering, or Lincoln's portrait, and while minor doubling is relatively common, extreme double dies are exceptionally rare, especially in modern issues, and a bold, unmistakable double die from 2011 would immediately stand out as a landmark discovery, capable of commanding extraordinary premiums, especially if combined with other anomalies such as unusual metal composition or exceptional condition. Die errors play a massive role in the 2011 penny story because modern dies are designed to last longer and produce more coins than ever before. And when a flaw is present in a die, it can be replicated across thousands of coins before being detected, yet truly dramatic errors often appear on only a handful of strikes before corrective action is taken, making those early examples incredibly scarce and highly sought after. Beyond double dies, the 2011 1 cent is also associated with die clashes, where obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of opposing designs on the coin. And while minor clashes are known, extreme clashes that significantly alter the appearance of the coin can elevate it into a whole different category of collectability, especially when combined with sharp strikes and minimal wear. Another possibility that fuels the $7 million valuation narrative is the concept of transitional or experimental errors, because even in years where no official composition change is announced, mints often conduct internal testing of materials, coatings, or production techniques, and if experimental planchets or processes accidentally enter circulation, the resulting coins become instant legends. Especially if their existence is never publicly documented, leaving collectors to piece together the mystery years later through scientific analysis and historical research. Weight anomalies are another crucial clue when evaluating a potentially valuable 2011 penny, because even a small deviation from the standard 2.5 gram weight can indicate something extraordinary, such as an incorrect alloy mixture, incomplete plating, or a wrong planchet strike, and when such anomalies are confirmed through metallurgical testing, they provide concrete evidence that a coin is not merely damaged or altered, but fundamentally different from its intended design. The reason collectors are willing to pay millions for such a coin lies in the combination of rarity, mystery, and narrative power, because a coin that should not exist forces experts to reconsider assumptions about modern minting perfection, and it reminds everyone that even with advanced technology, human systems are never flawless. Condition is another essential element in the valuation equation, because a pristine, uncirculated 2011 penny with a major error represents a perfect storm of desirability, as it preserves the error in its original state, free from wear or damage that could obscure critical details, and such coins are exponentially rarer than circulated examples, pushing potential values into extraordinary territory when elite collectors compete for ownership. The $7 million figure often discussed in relation to the 2011 1 cent is not arbitrary, but rather a reflection of how ultra-rare modern errors have performed when they combine extreme scarcity with undeniable authenticity and strong public fascination, because in high-end numismatics, prices are driven not only by past sales, but by perceived future significance. And a coin that redefines what is possible in modern minting has the potential to become a centerpiece of major collections or museum exhibits. One of the most compelling aspects of the 2011 penny story is that it keeps the dream alive for everyday people, because unlike ancient coins locked away in private vaults, these pennies were released into circulation, mixed with billions of others, and spent without a second thought, meaning that the theoretical possibility of discovery still exists, however small. And that possibility is enough to inspire countless people to examine their change more closely, invest in precision scales, and learn about error identification. Authentication is absolutely critical in this realm, because the promise of multi-million-dollar value inevitably attracts false claims, altered coins, and misunderstandings, making professional evaluation essential to separate genuine mint errors from post-mint damage or deliberate manipulation. And only coins that pass rigorous testing and certification can enter serious discussions of seven-figure valuations. The fascination with the 2011 1 cent also reflects a broader shift in how collectors view modern coins, as the old belief that only ancient or gold coins can be valuable has been shattered by discoveries that prove rarity and significance matter far more than age or face value, and this shift has opened the door for modern era coins to achieve legendary status alongside classic rarities. Another layer of intrigue comes from the sheer volume of pennies produced in 2011. Because with billions minted, the statistical likelihood of rare errors existing increases, even if the percentage is minuscule, and this paradox of mass production creating the conditions for extreme rarity is one of the most fascinating aspects of numismatics. Stories of people finding valuable coins in pocket change, old jars, or inherited collections continue to fuel public imagination, and the idea that a $7 million penny could still be out there adds an almost mythical quality to the hunt, blending hope, curiosity, and patience into a uniquely powerful experience. Next, 2014 1 cent coin. And thank you for joining me today, because what you are about to hear is one of the most fascinating and mind-bending stories in modern coin history, a story that challenges everything people think they know about pocket change, value, and rarity, and today we are diving deep into the incredible mystery of the 2014 1 cent coin. A penny that passed through millions of hands unnoticed, spent on groceries, dropped into jars, and forgotten in drawers, yet certain. Rare examples of this exact year and mint have captured the attention of elite collectors and error coin specialists around the world, with some experts and market analysts believing that under the right circumstances a single authentic specimen could reach values as high as $6 million, and as you listen, imagine the possibility that something so small and ordinary could hold the power to completely change a life. Because that sense of possibility is what makes this story so powerful and so unforgettable. The year 2014 might seem far too recent for a 1 cent coin to be worth millions, especially in an era of advanced technology, computer-controlled machinery, and rigorous quality checks, but history has shown again and again that when production numbers reach into the billions and systems rely on human oversight, extraordinary mistakes can and do happen, and the 2014 penny is a perfect example of how modern minting can still produce legendary anomalies that defy expectations and rewrite value charts. To understand why a 2014 1 cent could be valued at such an astonishing level, we must first look at the environment in which it was created, because by 2014 the United States Mint was producing pennies at massive scale while simultaneously dealing with rising production costs, declining public use of the cent, aging equipment, and constant pressure to maintain efficiency, and when speed and volume dominate a process, even the smallest deviation can result in a rare and powerful error that slips into circulation. The Denver Mint, identified by the D Mint mark on the coin, is one of the most productive minting facilities in the country, striking enormous quantities of coins every year, and while this efficiency is impressive, it also means that when something goes wrong, it can go wrong in ways that are subtle, unexpected, and incredibly difficult to detect without close inspection, which is exactly how some of the most valuable errors are born. One of the most important factors behind the $6 million valuation theory of the 2014 penny is the possibility of wrong planchet errors, an error category that sits at the very top of the numismatic hierarchy, because it represents a complete breakdown in the minting process, where a coin is struck on a blank that was never intended for that denomination. And in the modern era such errors are extraordinarily rare, but not impossible, especially when multiple denominations and even foreign coinage are produced within the same facilities or supply chains. Imagine a 2014 penny struck on a copper alloy planchet, a bronze blank, or even a planchet intended for another denomination or a foreign coin. instantly creating a piece that should not exist according to official mint records, and it is precisely this contradiction that fuels massive value. Because collectors are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for coins that challenge the established narrative of minting. Perfection. Weight becomes a critical clue in this hunt, because a standard 2014 penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams due to its zinc core with copper plating, and any significant deviation from this weight can signal something extraordinary, such as an incorrect metal composition or an off-metal strike, and when such anomalies are confirmed through scientific testing, they elevate a simple coin into the realm of elite rarity. Beyond wrong planchet possibilities, the 2014 D1 cent is also linked to the potential for dramatic double die errors, which occur during the die creation process rather than during striking, making them fundamentally different from common strike errors, because a double die is replicated identically across every coin struck from that die until it is discovered and replaced, and while minor doubling is not uncommon, bold and unmistakable double dies in modern coins are exceptionally rare, especially when they involve the date, mint mark area, or major design elements like Lincoln's profile or the lettering on the obverse and reverse. A strong double die from 2014 D would instantly become a landmark discovery, not just because of its rarity, but because it would prove that even with modern hubbing technology, serious alignment errors can still occur, and if such a double die appeared on a coin that also exhibited unusual weight, metal composition, or strike characteristics, the resulting combination could push value estimates into the multi-million-dollar range. Die-related issues do not end with doubling, because the 2014 D penny era also presents opportunities for severe die clashes, where obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind ghost-like impressions that later transfer onto coins, and while light die clashes are known and relatively affordable, extreme clashes that dramatically alter the appearance of the coin are rare and highly prized, especially when preserved in high condition. Another layer of intrigue surrounding the 2014 D penny is the possibility of experimental or transitional anomalies, because even in years with no officially announced changes, the mint often conducts internal testing of materials, coatings, or production methods to evaluate cost savings or durability, and if experimental planchets or processes accidentally enter circulation, the resulting coins become instant legends, especially if their existence is undocumented and must be proven. Through metallurgical analysis decades later, collectors and researchers have long known that some of the most valuable modern coins emerged not from officially declared transitions, but from quiet experiments and internal trials that left behind a handful of unintended survivors, and the idea that a 2014 D penny could represent such a survivor fuels ongoing speculation and excitement. Condition is another essential factor that drives potential value skyward, because in the world of ultra-rare coins, preservation matters enormously, and a pristine, uncirculated example with full original luster, sharp strike, and no post-mint damage preserves the error in its purest form, making it exponentially more desirable than a circulated counterpart, and when collectors at the highest level compete for such perfection, prices can rise to levels that seem unimaginable to the average person. The $6 million figure often associated with the 2014 D penny is not simply a fantasy, but a reflection of how the high-end numismatic market operates, where rarity, story, and significance combine to create value far beyond metal content or face value, and in this market, one new discovery can reset expectations overnight, especially if it is unique or among only a handful known. What makes the 2014 D penny story so compelling is that it keeps the dream alive for everyday people, because these coins were released into circulation, mixed with billions of others, and used in daily transactions, meaning that the theoretical possibility of discovery still exists, however slim, and that possibility has inspired countless people to look more closely at their change, invest in precision scales, and learn the basics of error identification. Authentication plays a critical role in separating dreams from reality, because the promise of millions inevitably attracts false claims, altered coins, and misunderstandings, making professional evaluation essential, and only coins that pass rigorous testing for composition, weight, strike characteristics, and die diagnostics can be taken seriously in discussions of multi-million-dollar value. The fascination with the 2014 D1 cent also reflects a broader shift in how collectors view modern coinage, as the outdated belief that only ancient or gold coins can be valuable has been shattered by modern eras that rival classic rarities in both price and prestige, proving that rarity is about circumstances, not age. Another important aspect of the 2014 D penny's allure is the sheer scale of production, because billions of pennies struck in a single year create a paradox where the probability of rare errors existing increases even as the percentage remains microscopic, and this paradox is one of the most intriguing elements of numismatics, showing how mass production can inadvertently create extreme scarcity. Stories of people discovering valuable coins in jars, rolls, and inherited collections continue to circulate, reinforcing the idea that history and fortune can hide in plain sight, and the notion that a $6 million penny could still be out there adds a sense of modern mythology to the hunt. The errors associated with the 2014 penny are more than technical flaws, they are historical fingerprints, evidence of the realities of industrial production, decision-making, and human oversight at a specific moment in time, and collectors who pursue these coins. Next 2013 1-cent coin. Everyone, and a very warm welcome to all the new viewers who are joining us today, because what you are about to hear is one of the most fascinating, controversial, and imagination-fueling stories in the world of modern coin collecting, a story that proves once again that unbelievable value can hide inside the smallest and most overlooked objects. And today we are diving deep into the mystery of the 2013 1-cent coin, a penny that most people would never glance at twice. Yet certain extremely rare examples from this year have sparked intense debate, research, and excitement among elite collectors, error coin specialists, and investors, with some believing that under the right combination of rarity, error type, and condition, a single authentic specimen could command a staggering value approaching $5 million. And as you listen, imagine the possibility that a coin sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or an old roll of pennies could hold the power to completely change a life, because that sense of hidden potential is exactly what makes this story so compelling and so unforgettable. The year 2013 feels almost too recent for a penny to be worth millions, especially in an era defined by automation, laser precision, digital monitoring, and advanced quality control, yet history repeatedly reminds us that no system, no matter how modern, is immune to error, especially when production reaches into the billions and relies on complex chains of human decisions, machine tolerances, and material handling. And it is within this reality that the legend of the $5 million 2013 1-cent begins to take shape. By 2013, the United States Mint was producing cents using a zinc core coated with copper, a composition that had been standard for decades, but the minting environment was anything but simple, as the mint faced rising metal costs, declining demand for cents in everyday commerce, and constant pressure to produce massive quantities efficiently. And when speed and scale dominate a process, the smallest oversight can create an anomaly that escapes detection and later becomes extraordinarily valuable. One of the most powerful drivers behind the potential value of a 2013 1-cent lies in the possibility of wrong planchet errors, which are among the most respected and valuable errors in all of numismatics, because they represent a fundamental breakdown in the minting process, where a coin is struck on a blank that was never intended for that denomination. And while such errors are incredibly rare in the modern era, they are not impossible, especially when multiple denominations, foreign coinage, and planchet suppliers intersect within the same production ecosystem. Imagine a 2013 penny struck on a copper alloy planchet, a bronze blank, or even a planchet intended for a completely different coin, instantly creating an object that should not exist according to official mint records. And it is precisely this contradiction that fuels massive value, because collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for coins that challenge established narratives and prove that even modern minting is not infallible. Weight becomes one of the first and most critical clues in identifying such a possibility, because a standard 2013 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, and any significant deviation from that weight can indicate something extraordinary, such as an incorrect metal composition or an off-metal strike. And when such anomalies are confirmed through scientific testing, they transform an ordinary coin into a potential numismatic legend. Beyond wrong planchet possibilities, the 2013 1-cent is also associated with the potential for dramatic double die errors, which occur during the die creation process when the design is misaligned and impressed more than once, resulting in visible doubling on elements like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's portrait. And while minor doubling exists on many coins, bold and unmistakable double dies are exceptionally rare in modern issues, making any confirmed example from 2013 an instant centerpiece of the error coin world. What makes double die errors especially powerful is that they are not random damage, but systematic mistakes embedded into the die itself, meaning every coin struck from that die carries the same flaw, and if such a die was quickly corrected, only a tiny number of coins might exist, creating extreme scarcity that drives value sharply upward. Die errors extend beyond doubling, because the 2013 penny era also presents the possibility of severe die clashes, where obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind ghost-like impressions that later appear on coins. And while minor clashes are relatively common, extreme clashes that significantly alter the design are rare and highly sought after, especially when preserved in high condition. Another layer of intrigue surrounding the 2013 1-cent comes from the possibility of experimental or undocumented anomalies. because even in years with no officially announced changes, the mint routinely tests materials, coatings, and production techniques internally, and if experimental planchets or processes accidentally enter circulation, the resulting coins become instant mysteries that must be unraveled through metallurgical analysis and historical research. Some of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered emerged not from publicized transitions, but from quiet internal experiments that left behind only a handful of unintended survivors, and the idea that a 2013 penny could represent such a survivor continues to fuel speculation and excitement. Condition plays a massive role in pushing a coin toward multi-million-dollar territory, because rarity alone is not always enough, and a pristine, uncirculated example with full original luster, sharp strike, and no post-mint damage preserves the error in its purest and most compelling form, making it exponentially more desirable to elite collectors who demand both rarity and visual impact. The $5 million valuation often associated with the 2013 1 cent is not merely fantasy, but a reflection of how the high-end numismatic market operates, where prices are driven by scarcity, story, and significance rather than face value or metal content. And in this market, a single discovery can redefine expectations overnight, especially if it is unique or among only a handful known. What makes the 2013 penny story especially powerful is that it keeps the dream alive for everyday people, because these coins were released into circulation, mixed with billions of others, and spent without a second thought, meaning the theoretical possibility of discovery still exists, however small, and that possibility has inspired countless people to examine their change more closely, learn about minting errors, and engage with numismatics in a way few other hobbies can match. Authentication is absolutely critical in this realm, because the promise of millions inevitably attracts false claims, altered coins, and misunderstandings, making professional evaluation essential to separate genuine mint errors from post-mint damage or deliberate manipulation, and only coins that pass rigorous testing for composition, weight, die characteristics, and strike quality can be taken seriously in discussions of seven-figure value. The fascination with the 2013 1 cent also reflects a broader shift in how collectors view modern coinage, as the outdated belief that only ancient or precious metal coins can be valuable has been shattered by modern errors that rival classic rarities in both price and prestige, proving that rarity is about circumstances and probability, not age. Another important factor behind the allure of the 2013 penny is the sheer scale of production, because billions of pennies minted in a single year create a paradox where the chance of rare errors existing increases even as the percentage remains microscopic, and this paradox is one of the most fascinating aspects of numismatics, showing how mass production can inadvertently create extreme scarcity. Stories of people discovering valuable coins in jars, rolls, and inherited collections continue to circulate, reinforcing the idea that history and fortune can hide in plain sight, and the notion that a $5 million penny could still be out there adds a modern, almost mythical quality to the hunt. The errors associated with the 2013 1 cent are more than technical flaws, they are historical fingerprints, evidence of real-world production pressures, human oversight, and the complex reality behind something as simple as making money, and collectors who pursue these coins are preserving that hidden story for future generations. What truly elevates the 2013 1 cent into legendary territory is the convergence of multiple possibilities: wrong planchet strikes, extreme double dies, experimental materials, dramatic die clashes, and exceptional preservation, because any one of these factors can create a valuable coin, but when two or more appear together, the result can be a once-in-a-generation discovery that reshapes the market and captures global attention. The $5 million valuation represents not just a number, but a symbol of curiosity, imperfection, and the enduring human fascination with mistakes that become treasures, reminding us that value is often born where no one expects it. Collectors often describe the pursuit of such coins as a blend of science, patience. Last 2009 1 cent coin, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you who are joining us today, because what we are about to explore is one of the most fascinating and astonishing stories in the world of modern coin collecting, a story that proves beyond doubt that enormous value can hide in the smallest and most ordinary objects. And today we are diving deep into the incredible and often overlooked mystery of the 2009 1 cent coin, a penny that most people would dismiss as common, something that passed through millions of hands in everyday transactions, dropped into jars, lost in couch cushions, or stored in old piggy banks. Yet certain extremely rare examples from this year have captured the attention of professional collectors, error coin specialists, and investors worldwide, and under the right conditions of rarity, error type, and preservation, a single authentic specimen could command an astonishing value approaching $3 million. And as you listen, imagine the possibility that a coin so small, so unassuming, could hold the power to completely transform someone's life, because that sense of hidden potential is exactly what makes this story so compelling and so unforgettable. The year 2009 may seem far too recent for a coin to be worth millions, especially in a modern era dominated by automated precision, laser-calibrated machinery, computer-assisted die engraving, and rigorous quality control procedures, yet history and experience repeatedly show that no system, no matter how technologically advanced, is entirely immune to error, particularly when production reaches into the billions and involves complex chains of human decisions, machine tolerances, material handling, and overlapping responsibilities, and it is within this intricate environment that the legend of the $3 million 2009 penny begins to take shape. By 2009, the United States Mint was producing 1-cent coins using the familiar zinc core coated with a thin layer of copper, a composition that had been standard since the early 1980s, yet despite this standardization, the minting process remained complex and vulnerable to subtle mistakes, because the mint faced rising metal costs, the pressure to meet production quotas, and the constant demand for flawless output, and when speed, efficiency, and volume dominate a process, even the smallest oversight can create anomalies that escape detection and later become extraordinarily valuable. One of the most powerful factors behind the potential value of a 2009 1-cent coin lies in the possibility of wrong planchet errors, which occupy the highest echelon of numismatic importance because they represent a complete breakdown in the minting process, where a coin is struck on a blank that was never intended for that denomination, and while such errors are extremely rare in the modern era, they are not impossible, particularly when multiple denominations and even foreign planchet sources intersect within the same facilities, and when that happens, the result is a coin that should not exist according to official mint records. Imagine a 2009 penny struck on a copper alloy planchet, a bronze blank, or even a planchet intended for a completely different denomination or a foreign coin, instantly creating a piece of coinage that contradicts official documentation. And it is precisely this contradiction between expectation and reality that fuels massive value, because collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for coins that challenge what is believed possible and prove that even modern minting is not infallible. Weight is one of the first and most critical indicators in identifying such a rare error, because a standard 2009 penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams, and any significant deviation from this weight can suggest something extraordinary, such as an incorrect metal composition or an off-metal strike, and when such anomalies are confirmed through professional metallurgical testing, they elevate an otherwise ordinary coin into the realm of elite rarity. Beyond wrong planchet possibilities, the 2009 1-cent is also linked to the potential for dramatic double die errors, which occur during the die creation process when the design is misaligned and impressed more than once, resulting in visible doubling on major elements such as the date, the lettering, or Lincoln's portrait, and while minor doubling exists on many coins, bold and unmistakable doubled dies are exceptionally rare in modern issues, making any confirmed example from 2009 an instant centerpiece of the error coin world. What makes double die errors particularly powerful is that they are not random damage or post-mint alterations, but systematic mistakes embedded into the die itself, meaning that every coin struck from that die carries the same flaw. And if such a die was quickly corrected after the first few thousand strikes, only a tiny number of coins might exist, creating extreme scarcity and driving value sharply upward. Die errors extend beyond doubling because the 2009 penny era also presents the potential for severe die clashes, where obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind ghostly impressions that later transfer onto coins. And while minor die clashes are relatively common and often of limited value, extreme die clashes that dramatically alter the coin's appearance are rare and highly sought after. Particularly when preserved in pristine condition. Another layer of intrigue surrounding the 2009 1-cent arises from the possibility of experimental or undocumented anomalies, because even in years with no officially declared changes, the mint routinely tests materials, coatings, and production techniques internally, and if experimental planchets or processes accidentally enter circulation, the resulting coins become instant mysteries, requiring metallurgical analysis, historical research, and careful authentication to confirm their legitimacy. Some of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered have emerged not from publicized transitions, but from quiet internal experiments that left behind only a handful of unintended survivors, and the idea that a 2009 penny could represent such a survivor continues to fuel speculation, excitement, and dedicated searching by collectors. Condition is another essential factor that drives potential value to extraordinary heights, because rarity alone is not always sufficient, and a pristine, uncirculated example with full original luster, a sharp strike, and no post-mint damage preserves the error in its purest and most compelling form. making it exponentially more desirable to elite collectors who demand both rarity and visual perfection. The $3 million valuation often associated with the 2009 1 cent is not simply a fantasy, but a reflection of how the high-end numismatic market operates, where scarcity, story, and historical significance combine to create value far beyond face value or metal content, and in this market, a single discovery can instantly redefine expectations, particularly if it is unique or among only a handful known to exist. What makes the 2009 penny story especially compelling is that it keeps the dream alive for everyday people, because these coins were released into circulation, mixed with billions of ordinary pennies, and used without a second thought, meaning the theoretical possibility of discovery still exists, however small, and that possibility has inspired countless people to examine their change more closely, invest in digital scales, learn about minting errors, and engage with numismatics in a way few other hobbies can replicate. Authentication plays a critical role in separating genuine opportunities from dreams or false claims, because the promise of multi-million-dollar coins inevitably attracts altered examples, misidentified specimens, and deliberate fakes, making professional evaluation by trusted grading services essential, and only coins that pass rigorous testing for composition, weight, die characteristics, and strike quality can be taken seriously in discussions of seven-figure valuations. The fascination with the 2009 1 cent also reflects a broader shift in how collectors view modern coinage, as the outdated notion that only ancient or precious metal coins can be valuable has been shattered by modern errors that rival classic rarities in both price and prestige, proving that rarity is about circumstance, probability, and documented anomaly rather than age or metal content. Another important aspect of the allure of the 2009 penny is the sheer scale of production, because billions of pennies struck in a single year create a paradox where the chance of rare errors existing increases even as the percentage remains microscopic. And this paradox is one of the most intriguing features of numismatics, demonstrating how mass production can inadvertently generate extreme scarcity. Stories of people discovering valuable coins in jars, rolls, and inherited collections continue to circulate in both the collector community and mainstream media, reinforcing the idea that history, rarity, and fortune can hide in plain sight, and the notion that a $3 million penny could still be out there adds a modern, almost mythical quality to the hunt. The errors associated with the 2009 1 cent are more than technical flaws. They are historical fingerprints, evidence of real-world production pressures, human oversight,